In a world where emotions run high, opinions are loud, and reactions are immediate, silence is often underestimated. Many believe that the strongest response to disrespect is a fiery rebuttal, a sharp word, or an aggressive defense, but true strength is revealed in restraint, composure, and self-mastery. Silence is not weakness, it is power. It is a demonstration of control, wisdom, and understanding that transcends the need for validation or retaliation. When someone disrespects you, responding impulsively may satisfy a momentary urge, but it gives energy to their words, validates their attempt to provoke, and often escalates conflict. Silence, on the other hand, disarms the aggressor, maintains your dignity, and communicates that you are guided by higher principles than reactionary impulses. The strongest response begins with awareness. Disrespect often triggers anger, hurt, or defensiveness, and the human instinct is to retaliate. Yet awareness allows you to pause, recognize the provocation, and refuse to give it the power to control your emotions. The silent person understands that energy follows focus. When you fixate on offense, you give life to negativity. When you choose silence, you preserve energy, maintain clarity, and refuse to let someone else dictate your emotional state. Silence creates space to think, reflect, and respond with wisdom, rather than reacting out of pride, fear, or impulsive emotion. It is in this space that true power resides. Silence conveys strength without saying a word. A person who responds with words in anger often diminishes their own authority, exposing vulnerability and creating further tension. The person who remains silent, however, communicates something far more profound: control, composure, and the refusal to engage in petty disputes. The aggressor may continue to speak, to provoke, and to assert their disrespect, but silence becomes an unshakable shield that cannot be pierced by insult. It signals that your value is inherent and unshaken by external attempts to belittle, embarrass, or manipulate. In silence, you assert that your self-worth is not contingent on someone else's approval or opinion. Patience is cultivated through silence. Reacting immediately may seem satisfying, but it often leads to regret or escalation. The strong person understands that timing and discernment are critical. Silence allows emotions to settle, perspective to develop, and appropriate responses to be considered if needed at all. Many conflicts resolve themselves when neither side escalates, and often silence communicates boundaries more effectively than words ever could. It establishes a calm authority that cannot be challenged impulsively, leaving the disrespectful party to confront their own behavior in the quiet reflection of your composed response. Silence is also a form of self-respect. Choosing not to argue, defend, or retaliate preserves dignity. It demonstrates that you do not need to justify your value to those who fail to recognize it. By remaining silent, you refuse to lower yourself to the level of someone who chooses disrespect as a weapon. Silence allows you to retain control over your narrative, your energy, and your integrity. It communicates a quiet confidence that cannot be shaken by words alone, and it ensures that your power remains intact, untainted by unnecessary confrontation. Strategically, silence is disarming. Those who disrespect often seek a reaction, a sign of weakness, anger, or vulnerability that they can exploit. By withholding response, you deny them the satisfaction of control. Your silence creates uncertainty for the aggressor and removes the drama that fuels conflict. It can be more powerful than the loudest words because it forces the other person to confront their behavior internally without your participation. Silence becomes a mirror, reflecting the nature of their actions and leaving them to wrestle with the consequences of their disrespect without your validation or engagement. In addition, silence fosters emotional mastery. It requires the ability to manage feelings, restrain impulses, and operate from a place of principle rather than emotion. Responding with anger or defensiveness may provide a temporary sense of justice, but it often prolongs tension and diminishes inner peace. Silence, on the other hand, is an act of self-discipline. It communicates that you are not controlled by external circumstances or provocation, but by a deliberate choice to maintain composure, honor, and clarity. Mastery of emotion through silence is a hallmark of strength, resilience, and wisdom, distinguishing those who rise above petty conflicts from those who are ensnared by them. Silence also allows perspective to emerge. In the heat of disrespect, it is easy to react based on immediate emotion rather than truth. Choosing silence provides the opportunity to reflect on the situation, evaluate intentions, and determine the most constructive course of action. It ensures that any response, if it becomes necessary, is thoughtful, measured, and aligned with long-term objectives rather than short-term gratification. The strong person understands that not every insult deserves a reply, and that the impact of silence often surpasses the impact of words in conveying authority and integrity. Moreover, silence cultivates inner peace. By refusing to engage in negative exchanges, you protect your emotional and spiritual well-being. The energy that would have been spent on retaliation or argument is preserved for growth, productivity, and purposeful action. You maintain clarity, focus, and strength, ensuring that your life is not disrupted by the immaturity or disrespect of others. Silence becomes a sanctuary, a tool for maintaining equilibrium, and a source of empowerment that reinforces your ability to navigate life with confidence and poise. Finally, silence speaks louder than words ever can. It communicates a principle that no argument can override. You are sovereign over your own emotions, behavior, and dignity. It demonstrates that your strength is not contingent on others' approval and that your value is not diminished by their disrespect. Silence transforms confrontation into a display of personal mastery, turning potential conflict into an opportunity to model composure, integrity, and self-respect. It is a response that commands respect without aggression, influence without confrontation, and authority without entitlement. In essence, the strongest response to disrespect is silence, because it preserves energy, maintains dignity, fosters patience, communicates control, disarms the aggressor, cultivates emotional mastery, allows perspective, reinforces inner peace, and speaks powerfully without a single word. It is a choice that requires wisdom, discipline, and strength, but when practiced consistently, it transforms the way others perceive you and the way you experience life. Silence is not passive. It is an active, deliberate assertion of personal power, an unshakable stance that demonstrates the highest form of self-respect and inner authority. Disrespect is one of the most common challenges we face in life. It comes from friends, family, colleagues, or strangers, and it can provoke strong emotions: anger, hurt, frustration, or a desire to defend oneself. Many people believe that responding quickly, loudly, or forcefully is the way to protect their dignity and assert authority, yet history, wisdom, and experience repeatedly show that the strongest response is not a reaction at all, but silence. Silence is a demonstration of mastery, discipline, and self-respect. It is a deliberate choice to preserve one's energy, maintain dignity, and rise above the petty attempts of others to provoke or diminish. It is in silence that true strength is revealed, because it shows that your value, control, and peace are not determined by the opinions, words, or actions of others. The first step toward responding with silence is awareness. Every human instinct drives us to respond when insulted or belittled. The body tenses, the mind races, and words prepare to escape our lips. Yet awareness allows you to pause and recognize that reacting is optional, not mandatory. You understand that giving a response may feed the disrespect, validating the effort someone is making to provoke you. Silence is born from the realization that your energy is far too valuable to expend on arguments, accusations, or reactive behavior. By stepping back, observing the situation, and choosing calm, you assert control over your mind and emotions. The ability to respond consciously, rather than react impulsively, is the hallmark of strength, and it sets the stage for silence to become the most effective and powerful response. Silence communicates power without speaking. When someone attempts to disrespect you, they often seek a reaction, a sign of weakness, anger, or vulnerability. By refusing to give them this satisfaction, you neutralize their power. The loudest or most aggressive words may seem impactful, but they rarely assert true authority. Silence, on the other hand, demonstrates composure, self-possession, and unshakable confidence. It signals that you are not controlled by provocation, that your self-worth does not depend on external approval, and that you operate from a higher plane of understanding. Those who witness silence in the face of insult recognize strength in its purest form, and it often commands more respect than words ever could. Patience is cultivated through silence. It is easy to react immediately, to fire back with words that might be sharp or cutting, but such reactions are often fueled by momentary emotion rather than wisdom. Silence allows time for perspective, reflection, and discernment. By choosing not to respond impulsively, you give yourself space to understand the situation, evaluate your emotions, and determine the most constructive approach, if a response is even necessary at all. Often, silence is the only response required, because it denies the disrespectful person the attention or validation they crave. Patience through silence demonstrates that you are guided by principle rather than emotion, and it reveals a depth of character that cannot be shaken by insults or provocations. Silence is also an act of self-respect. Choosing not to argue or defend yourself preserves your dignity and integrity. It communicates that you do not need to justify your value to someone who refuses to recognize it. Responding aggressively or defensively often lowers you to the level of the person showing disrespect, creating conflict and feeding negativity. Silence, however, is a shield, maintaining your inner equilibrium while leaving the aggressor exposed. It is a statement that your power and self-worth are not contingent on the behavior or opinions of others. By embracing silence, you preserve authority, calm, and clarity, and you set an example of how to handle difficult situations with grace. Another powerful aspect of silence is its disarming effect. Many who disrespect others rely on the reaction they provoke to feel control or dominance. By refusing to respond, you remove the drama and unpredictability that fuels their attempts to manipulate or belittle. Silence creates a sense of uncertainty for the aggressor, forcing them to confront their own behavior without your participation. This disarmament is not passive, it is strategic. Silence communicates unspoken authority, and it can often lead the other person to reflect on their actions in ways that words could never achieve. By choosing silence, you assert mastery over the situation, demonstrating that true strength lies in restraint and composure. Silence fosters emotional mastery. Managing one's emotions in the face of disrespect is challenging, but it is essential for personal growth and long-term success. Reacting in anger may feel satisfying momentarily, but it often leads to regret, escalates conflict, and diminishes inner peace. Silence, however, allows you to retain control, think clearly, and respond in a way that aligns with your values. It is an act of discipline, showing that you are not a prisoner of provocation but the master of your emotional state. Those who cultivate this mastery develop resilience, confidence, and clarity, ensuring that disrespect does not derail their purpose, peace, or progress. Silence provides clarity and perspective. When confronted with disrespect, it is easy to misinterpret motives or react based on incomplete information. By remaining silent, you create space to analyze the situation, assess intentions, and decide on the best course of action, whether it is to address the issue later calmly, to set boundaries, or to simply walk away. Silence ensures that any response is measured, deliberate, and productive, rather than impulsive and reactive. It allows you to maintain strategic control of the situation, ensuring that your dignity and peace remain intact while preventing unnecessary escalation. Moreover, silence protects your inner peace. Engaging in arguments or conflicts fueled by disrespect consumes energy, distracts from priorities, and disrupts emotional equilibrium. By remaining silent, you preserve your mental and emotional space, directing focus toward growth, productivity, and positive relationships rather than negative confrontation. Silence creates an internal sanctuary, a space where composure, clarity, and confidence are nurtured. It ensures that your energy is invested in building strength, pursuing goals, and maintaining peace rather than reacting to every provocation or slight. Ultimately, silence is louder than any argument, sharper than any retort, and stronger than any display of aggression. It communicates restraint, authority, and self-possession in a way that words often cannot. It is the ultimate expression of confidence, demonstrating that you are unshaken by disrespect and unbound by the opinions or actions of others. Silence is not a sign of weakness. It is an emblem of wisdom, emotional mastery, and inner strength. By choosing silence in the face of disrespect, you convey that your life, peace, and self-worth are governed by principle, not by the whims or offenses of those around you. The strongest response to disrespect, therefore, is silence, because it preserves energy, maintains dignity, fosters patience, communicates power, disarms aggressors, nurtures emotional mastery, allows perspective, protects inner peace, and asserts unspoken authority. It is a conscious, deliberate choice that requires discipline, awareness, and confidence, but it is one of the most effective ways to handle provocation, maintain composure, and demonstrate strength. Silence is active, powerful, and transformational. It turns potential conflict into an opportunity to exhibit grace, integrity, and self-control, showing the world that true strength does not lie in retaliation, but in restraint. Disrespect is a reality that touches every life at some point. People may belittle, criticize, provoke, or attempt to diminish your value, sometimes intentionally and sometimes out of ignorance. The natural human response is often to react, defend, retaliate, or argue. But the strongest, most powerful response is silence. Silence requires courage, self-control, and perspective. It is not a sign of weakness or passivity, rather, it is an act of strength and wisdom. Choosing silence communicates more than any words could. It shows mastery over emotions, composure in the face of provocation, and an understanding that true authority is not demonstrated through aggression, but through restraint. When practiced consistently, silence becomes a shield, a weapon, and a statement that your self-worth is untouchable and your peace unshakable. Silence begins with self-awareness. It requires recognizing your triggers and understanding the motives behind someone's disrespectful behavior. Most insults and provocations are designed to elicit a reaction, to make you feel small, angry, or defensive. By becoming aware of this dynamic, you can choose not to feed into it. Silence gives you control over your response, denying the aggressor the power they seek. It transforms the situation from a contest of words into a demonstration of inner strength. Awareness also allows you to separate emotion from principle. Where many respond impulsively out of pride or hurt, the person who practices silence responds with measured composure, grounded in self-respect and strategic thinking. Silence communicates power in ways words never can. When someone tries to provoke you, reacting immediately often escalates the conflict and exposes vulnerability. The silent person, however, demonstrates authority without confrontation. Silence shows that your confidence, dignity, and self-worth are not dependent on external validation. It tells the aggressor that they cannot control your emotions or manipulate your sense of value. This is a type of power that is profound yet subtle, commanding respect without a single word. In a world where many measure strength by loudness or aggression, silence becomes an unexpected and formidable display of mastery. Patience is a natural companion to silence. Choosing not to react immediately allows emotions to settle and perspective to emerge. Reacting in the heat of anger may feel satisfying at the moment, but it rarely produces positive results and often escalates tension. Silence gives you the time to reflect, understand the situation, and decide whether any response is necessary, and if so, what kind of response aligns with your values and long-term objectives. The strongest individuals know that patience in the face of disrespect is not passive, but active. It is a conscious decision to rise above the immediate urge to defend, to delay gratification, and to maintain control over how the situation impacts you. Silence is also a profound expression of self-respect. Responding to disrespect with argument, sarcasm, or retaliation can inadvertently lower your standard and reinforce negativity. Silence protects your dignity and preserves the integrity of your character. It says, without words, that your worth is intrinsic and untouchable. You do not need to justify yourself or prove your value to anyone who disrespects you. In this way, silence becomes a form of empowerment. It ensures that you maintain authority over your own mind, emotions, and actions, and it communicates to others that your identity is not defined by their approval or opinion. Strategically, silence disarms the aggressor. People who are disrespectful often seek reaction. They thrive on drama, tension, or the emotional responses of others. By remaining silent, you deny them the satisfaction and control they are seeking. Silence can create discomfort or reflection for the aggressor because they are left facing their own behavior without reinforcement or validation from you. It transforms the dynamic from one of conflict to one of subtle dominance, where restraint and self-mastery speak louder than any words could. The aggressor is forced to confront the reality that their attempts to provoke have failed, and this realization can sometimes lead to introspection and a shift in behavior. Emotional mastery is cultivated through silence. Managing emotions in the face of provocation requires discipline, strength, and focus. Reacting with anger or defensiveness may provide temporary satisfaction, but often results in regret or escalated conflict. Silence allows you to retain control over your internal state, ensuring that your decisions and actions are guided by wisdom rather than impulse. It fosters resilience, clarity, and confidence, and it demonstrates that true power resides in controlling oneself rather than controlling others. Through silence, you show that your emotional state is your own and cannot be hijacked by the disrespectful actions or words of others. Silence allows perspective to develop. Immediate reactions are often short-sighted, influenced by emotion rather than rational thought. By withholding response, you create space to observe, analyze, and understand the situation fully. You can determine whether a response is necessary, and if so, craft one that aligns with integrity, strategy, and long-term impact. Silence ensures that your energy is focused on productive actions rather than reactive conflict. It allows you to choose battles wisely, preserve your composure, and maintain clarity of mind. Perspective, gained through silence, transforms disrespectful interactions from moments of tension into opportunities for personal growth, reflection, and strategic decision-making. Furthermore, silence protects inner peace. Engaging in conflict consumes energy, clouds judgment, and disrupts emotional balance. By choosing silence, you safeguard your mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. You prevent negativity from dominating your thoughts and actions, preserving clarity, focus, and composure. Silence creates a sanctuary within, a space where peace, patience, and strength are cultivated. This inner calm ensures that your life is not dictated by the petty provocations of others, allowing you to navigate challenges with clarity and purpose. In preserving peace through silence, you maintain authority over your emotional world, which is one of the most profound demonstrations of strength. Ultimately, silence is an active form of power. It preserves energy, maintains dignity, fosters patience, communicates authority, disarms aggressors, cultivates emotional mastery, provides perspective, and protects inner peace. It is a conscious, deliberate response that reflects wisdom, maturity, and courage. Those who master the art of silence demonstrate that true strength is not measured by volume or aggression, but by composure, self-control, and resilience. Silence allows you to rise above disrespect without compromising integrity, projecting confidence and authority in the most subtle yet undeniable way. The strongest response to disrespect is silence, because it communicates more than any argument, word, or retaliation ever could. It embodies mastery of self, composure in adversity, and adherence to principle. It shows that you are unshakable, that your value is inherent, and that your life is guided by wisdom rather than reactive impulse. Silence transforms confrontation into an opportunity to exhibit strength, resilience, and integrity, setting a standard that commands respect without aggression. In a world driven by reaction, silence stands as the ultimate declaration that your peace, dignity, and authority are sovereign, unassailable, and unshaken by disrespect. Disrespect is a test, a challenge, and an opportunity, all rolled into one. It comes in many forms: sharp words, dismissive attitudes, betrayal or undermining actions, and it often triggers immediate emotional reactions. The natural human impulse is to defend oneself, to respond with equal force, or to attempt to correct the injustice. Yet the strongest response is rarely found in the volume of your words or the intensity of your reaction. It is found in the deliberate, quiet, and intentional choice of silence. Silence in the face of disrespect is a form of strength that speaks louder than arguments, debates, or defenses ever could. It is a testament to emotional maturity, self-discipline, and inner authority, signaling to the world that your sense of worth, peace, and control cannot be shaken by external provocations. The foundation of responding with silence begins with self-control. Disrespect often triggers anger, hurt, or frustration, emotions that, if unrestrained, can lead to words and actions that are reactive rather than intentional. The strong person pauses before responding, consciously deciding to withhold the immediate reaction. This pause is not hesitation, it is power. It is the recognition that responding impulsively may escalate conflict, validate the provocateur, or compromise your own dignity. In choosing silence, you assert control over your emotions, demonstrating that no one has the ability to dictate how you respond or manipulate your peace of mind. Mastery over your reactions is the first step toward transforming disrespect into an opportunity for growth and composure. Silence communicates authority without confrontation. When someone attempts to provoke or belittle you, they often seek to assert dominance by eliciting a response. Responding in anger or defensiveness may give them temporary satisfaction, but it also signals vulnerability. Silence, however, conveys a type of authority that is unassailable. It shows that you operate from a place of principle rather than emotion, that your confidence and self-worth are inherent, and that your peace is untouchable. The silent person wields influence without aggression, commanding respect simply through restraint. In this way, silence becomes a strategic and powerful response, turning potential conflict into a demonstration of composure and mastery. Patience is cultivated through the practice of silence. Immediate reactions are often fueled by emotion and can lead to regret, escalation, or miscommunication. Silence provides the necessary space to process emotions, evaluate the situation, and gain perspective. It allows you to consider whether a response is necessary, what form it should take, and how it aligns with your values and long-term objectives. Often, silence is all that is needed. The aggressor's words lose power, and the tension diminishes without further engagement. Patience, expressed through silence, demonstrates maturity, wisdom, and control, and it enables the strong person to maintain dignity while allowing the situation to unfold in a way that benefits them rather than escalating harm. Silence is also an expression of self-respect. Choosing not to engage in arguments or retaliate preserves your integrity and protects your dignity. It communicates that you do not need to defend your worth to someone who refuses to recognize it. The strong person knows that their value is inherent and cannot be diminished by the opinions or disrespect of others. Silence ensures that energy is not wasted on futile conflicts, and it preserves composure and focus for actions that truly matter. By refusing to react, You maintain authority over your own behavior and avoid lowering yourself to the level of those who attempt to provoke or belittle you. The strategic power of silence lies in its ability to disarm. Many who are disrespectful thrive on reaction. They feed on attention, drama, or emotional responses. By withholding that reaction, you deny them the satisfaction and control they seek. Silence forces the aggressor to confront their own behavior without reinforcement from you. It creates a subtle pressure that often leads to reflection or reconsideration, while leaving you untouched by negativity. In this way, silence becomes a tool of influence, turning the tables without confrontation, manipulation, or verbal sparring. It demonstrates that true power is not in words or aggression, but in the ability to rise above provocation with dignity and composure. Silence nurtures emotional mastery. Managing emotions in the face of disrespect is a sign of strength and resilience. Reacting impulsively may provide momentary gratification, but it often compromises peace and clarity. Silence allows you to retain control over your inner state, ensuring that any action or response is guided by wisdom rather than temporary emotion. It cultivates resilience, helping you navigate challenges without being consumed by them, and builds a sense of invulnerability that comes from knowing you are not controlled by the provocations of others. Emotional mastery through silence is a demonstration of inner strength, a quiet yet undeniable force that leaves a lasting impression. Silence also enables clarity of perspective. Immediate reactions often obscure judgment and cloud understanding. By stepping back and choosing not to respond, you give yourself the opportunity to analyze the situation, understand motives, and determine the most effective approach if any response is required. This perspective allows for strategic thinking, protecting your interests while avoiding unnecessary conflict. It ensures that your energy is invested in constructive outcomes rather than futile confrontations. Silence provides a lens through which disrespect can be reframed as an opportunity to demonstrate strength, self-control, and wisdom. Inner peace is preserved through silence. Engaging with disrespect often disrupts emotional balance, drains energy, and creates tension. By choosing silence, you maintain composure, safeguard mental clarity, and protect your focus. Your energy remains directed toward meaningful pursuits rather than being consumed by negativity or conflict. Silence fosters a sanctuary within, where peace, calm, and rational thought are maintained regardless of external behavior. It allows you to navigate life with stability, confidence, and resilience, unaffected by the attempts of others to provoke or diminish you. Finally, silence is a powerful, unspoken statement. It conveys mastery over oneself, an unshakable confidence, and a refusal to be dictated by the disrespectful actions of others. It communicates that you are guided by principle rather than impulse, that your dignity is intact, and that your peace is non-negotiable. In a world where many resort to words and reaction, silence becomes a rare and commanding strength, an indicator of maturity, wisdom, and self-possession. It transforms potential conflict into an opportunity to display resilience, composure, and strategic thinking, leaving a lasting impression of power without aggression. Strongest response to disrespect is silence, because it preserves energy, maintains dignity, fosters patience, communicates authority, disarms aggressors, cultivates emotional mastery, provides perspective, protects inner peace, and makes a powerful statement without words. Silence is an active, intentional choice that demonstrates courage, self-discipline, and strategic thinking. It allows you to rise above provocation, maintain control over your life, and exhibit a level of strength and composure that words alone cannot achieve. In mastering the art of silence, you cultivate a response that is not only effective but transformative, turning disrespect into a stage upon which your dignity, confidence, and authority are powerfully displayed. Disrespect is an inevitable part of life. People will challenge you, underestimate you, provoke you, or act in ways that undermine your value. It may come from strangers, acquaintances, colleagues, or even loved ones. The instinct is often to respond, defend, or retaliate, yet the strongest response is rarely verbal. Silence is a profound demonstration of strength, wisdom, and composure. It communicates power that cannot be measured by words alone, and it shows the world that your self-worth, dignity, and peace are untouchable. Choosing silence in the face of disrespect is not passive, it is active mastery. It requires courage, patience, and self-discipline, and it turns potential conflict into an opportunity to demonstrate grace, control, and authority. Silence is powerful because it demonstrates self-control. The moment someone disrespects you, your emotions may spike, anger, frustration, or hurt, but silence allows you to step back and regain control of your reactions. It is a conscious decision to not let someone else dictate your emotional state. This mastery over oneself signals a deep inner strength. The silent response reflects the understanding that reacting impulsively only amplifies the disrespect, giving energy to the aggressor and allowing them to manipulate your peace. By remaining silent, you retain control over your mind, your emotions, and your power, demonstrating that you are guided by principle rather than provocation. Silence conveys authority without aggression. When faced with disrespect, many try to assert themselves through words, hoping to prove their worth or defend their integrity. Yet words spoken in anger often backfire, escalate conflict, or undermine composure. Silence, in contrast, communicates more effectively than any argument. It tells others that your self-esteem is inherent, that your values are unshakable, and that your energy will not be squandered on petty disputes. The aggressor may continue to speak, expecting a reaction, but silence becomes an unbreakable barrier, a testament to strength that does not need verbal reinforcement. Authority in silence is subtle yet undeniable. It is a command of respect without confrontation. Patience is cultivated through silence. Responding immediately to disrespect can feel satisfying, but it often leads to regret or intensifies tension. Silence allows time to process emotions, observe motives, and evaluate the situation. This pause gives clarity, enabling a response that is measured and intentional if needed, or no response at all if none is required. Patience through silence transforms the encounter from a reactive exchange into a demonstration of control, maturity, and discernment. It communicates that you are not governed by momentary impulses, but by deliberate choices that honor your dignity and long-term objectives. Silence is an expression of self-respect. Choosing not to engage preserves your integrity and ensures that your behavior reflects your highest values. Responding to disrespect with argument or retaliation may compromise your composure and distract from your goals. By remaining silent, you maintain control over your actions and refuse to participate in behavior that diminishes your dignity. Silence communicates to the world that your worth is inherent, that you do not need to justify yourself to anyone, and that you will not allow the negativity of others to taint your peace. It is a declaration of sovereignty over your own mind, your emotions, and your life. The strategic dimension of silence lies in its ability to disarm the aggressor. People who disrespect often seek a reaction. They thrive on emotional responses or conflict. By withholding response, you deny them the satisfaction and control they desire. Silence forces them to confront their behavior internally, without your validation or engagement. This subtle power can provoke self-reflection in the aggressor while leaving you untouched by negativity. In this way, silence becomes not only a defensive measure, but an active tool of influence, reshaping the dynamic of the interaction without aggression, argument, or escalation. Silence develops emotional mastery. Managing your response in the face of provocation requires discipline, awareness, and strength. Reacting impulsively may provide temporary relief, but it rarely preserves peace or dignity. Silence allows you to observe, process, and regulate emotions, demonstrating a depth of control that is rarely achieved by reactive speech. emotional mastery through silence, is a hallmark of wisdom and resilience. It shows that you are not a product of circumstance or external provocation, but a master of your inner world. This mastery enables consistent composure, even under repeated challenges, and reinforces an aura of unshakable strength. Silence provides clarity and perspective. Immediate reactions often distort judgment and cloud understanding. By choosing silence, you allow yourself the mental space to assess the situation with objectivity. This reflection can reveal motives, patterns, or insights that were not immediately apparent in the heat of the moment. Silence ensures that any eventual response is strategic, aligned with principles, and preserves your long-term interests. It also allows you to determine whether engagement is necessary at all. Many times, silence alone communicates more than words ever could, making your position clear without escalation or compromise of integrity. Preserving inner peace is another profound benefit of silence. Engaging in conflict, even just verbally, consumes energy, fosters tension, and distracts from purpose. Silence safeguards emotional balance, enabling you to remain focused on your goals, maintain clarity of thought, and nurture resilience. It protects the mind from negativity and preserves composure, ensuring that your life is not disrupted by those who seek to provoke or undermine you. Inner peace cultivated through silence enhances overall strength, empowering you to navigate challenges with poise and confidence. Ultimately, silence is the strongest response because it communicates control, authority, and dignity. It transforms potential conflict into a demonstration of mastery, patience, and wisdom. It shows the world that your value is inherent, your energy is guarded, and your composure is unshakable. Silence is not a lack of action. It is an intentional, powerful, and strategic choice. It allows you to rise above disrespect, maintain integrity, and project strength without aggression. Through silence, you assert sovereignty over your emotions, your reactions, and your life, demonstrating that true strength is revealed not in retaliation, but in restraint. The strongest response to disrespect is silence, because it preserves energy, fosters patience, communicates authority, disarms aggression, cultivates emotional mastery, provides clarity, protects inner peace, and asserts unspoken power. It transforms every encounter with disrespect into an opportunity to display composure, resilience, and strategic wisdom. Silence is an art, a deliberate and conscious practice that reflects maturity, courage, and confidence. It demonstrates that you are guided by principle rather than impulse, and that your self-worth and peace are inviolable. In choosing silence, you rise above provocation, leaving a legacy of strength, dignity, and influence that words alone cannot achieve.